Good
No, I
morning.
won't keep it. I'll give it.
This is an open meeting of the New York State Athletic Commission. The time is 11:10 a.m. It is June 2nd, 2014. My name is David Mossberg. I'm an attorney with the New York Department of State. Present at this meeting are Executive Director David Berlin, Chairperson of the New York State Athletic Commission Malvina Lathan, and Commissioners Judge Torres and Mr. Signorelli. The first item on the agenda for today is to approve the last-minute meetings, which were prepared following the Commission's meeting on March 26, 2014. I believe the Commissioners should have received those minutes previously. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And does anyone have any revisions, changes, or concerns with what's reflected?
None from me.
None? Okay. Is there any motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to accept.
Second.
Okay. Chairperson Lathan? The next item on the agenda is old business. I'm not sure, but does anyone have any old matters that they wish to discuss at this time?
No.
No.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is new business. The first item under new business is for an activities report from Executive Director Berlin. So I'll leave it to you.
Sure. You've already met me. I'm David Berlin. I'm the Executive Director. I came on May 1st. I'll tell you about things that happened before I came on. Since your last meeting, there were 11 boxing shows in New York, 5 of them upstate, 6 of them downstate, mostly in the city, and 52 wrestling shows, 27 upstate and 25 downstate. Since I've come on board May 1st, I'll just tell you about a few things we're working on in the office and also at the shows. First of all, what you as commissioners put into place, actually, translator services for non-English speaking fighters. This was done for the first time on May 15th, 2014. It was a Star of David promoted show at the Millennium Theater in Brooklyn, and a Russian interpreter was used to assist the commission at both the weigh-in and at the fight for a boxer named Alexei Zubov. I believe this is the first time that translation services have ever been used, perhaps in boxing. And as you know, the purpose of the translation services are to assist the commission. So the interpreter works for us. Anything that the corner says, that the boxer says, is naturally in the right situations conveyed to the physicians who work in the corner so that we can look out for the medical safety of the fighters. So that was done for the first time May 15th, and it hasn't been used since that time. There's been no need for it, but we're in the process of getting translators for the June 14th show, where once again there are going to be Russian speakers on the card. In terms of what's been going on in the office, we do have 2 new employees, which we'll be discussing later in executive session, and they have been, because we have more staff, obviously there have been additional projects that we're able to work on as a commission. There's an effort in place right now to reach out to the gyms, both in the city and upstate, in terms of fulfilling our function of licensing gyms in New York State. We're also making a push to recruit new inspectors, particularly inspectors who speak other languages, which will allow us to have the inspectors work directly in the corner instead of needing translators for those fights. So we're looking to recruit Russian-speaking inspectors and other languages that might be appropriate based on who the boxers are who are coming to the state to fight. Also looking to recruit physicians, particularly in the upstate areas where we could use more physicians for some of those shows. So that's in process, the recruitment of both inspectors and physicians, the licensing of gyms. Also, we're planning on putting together a schedule, perhaps a year out, for training seminars for the various officials, employees of the commission, referees, judges, obviously some of this has already been in place, inspectors, physicians, and probably also for boxers and trainers and managers in terms of being able to convey some knowledge about nutrition, about proper weight loss and weight gain. Obviously, these are big issues in the sport, and it seems appropriate that boxers and trainers should be able to attend seminars which will improve their knowledge in these areas. So that's all in the works. Okay, finally, it's a small point, but we're also working on the Athletic Commission website, and so far we've brought in-house into the commission the function of updating our calendar with the boxing events so that we can make sure it's all in-house and kept current. So if the public looks at our website, looks at the calendar of events, everything's up to date. It helps promoters who are requesting dates for shows. They'll know if a date's taken, whether they should send in the request to begin with. So I think it'll help the process with the boxing public and with the public generally. That's the update.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Berlin. The next item on the new business is a review and discussion on the current SAC approved glove policy. Currently, and this is actually basically two parts that we're going to be discussing. Currently, as everyone is aware, that there's a specific list of approved gloves which are permissible for use in professional activities within the state during our regulated events. So over the last several weeks, I guess, the commission has been contacted, and there have been various requests to approve new makes, models, and weights so that they could be added to the approved glove list. So the first part of our discussion is that the commission should review the information regarding the weights, gloves, and manufacturers. There are three makes, models, and weights from Everlast. There's the Protex 3 10-ounce glove, the Everlast Powerlock 10-ounce glove, and the Everlast Powerlock 8-ounce glove. There's also the Ringside PFGR professional fight glove, the 8-ounce model that the commission has also reviewed. With respect to the gloves, commission staff has reached out to other jurisdictions. We have been informed that the Ringside gloves, which are before you, are currently used in California, Pennsylvania. The Mohegan Sun uses this brand of glove. Actually, no, I apologize. Mohegan does not use this brand. And we haven't heard back, but we've contacted Las Vegas, Maryland, and New Jersey. All of the Everlast gloves are currently being used in California, Nevada, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and at the Mohegan Sun. With respect to one of the gloves, I should just clarify that when we had weighed the wrist padding of the Everlast Powerlock 10-ounce glove, the wrist padding weighed 1.1 ounce. Now we have a 1 ounce threshold, but it could be that this is just a normal anomaly within manufacturing or, dust on the scale or something like that. We think that it's within reasonable or within acceptable standards, and it's such a de minimis number that we don't really think it would affect the actual overall evaluation that commission staff did of the glove. So that's why we believe we could say that they meet all minimum legal requirements for approval, but ultimately it's up to the commission to decide, and the commission
Are they just concerned with one weight? Are 8s and 10s on each glove, or just, you said 8s specifically? Can they use them in both? I'm sure it'll come up soon.
Well, the only ones that we vetted were with respect to the Ringside, the 10s are already approved.
Okay.
We had issues with, they had once attempted to get on the approved glove list, but we had issues with their weights previously.
Right.
So we redid their weights. Now, like I said, we believe that they satisfy all minimum legal requirements. For the Powerlocks, we're evaluating both the 8s and the 10s.
Yeah.
And for the Everlast Pro-Tex 3 glove, we were only asked to review the 10 ounce, and that was the only glove that we actually cutted, or that the commission staff cutted and inspected.
It would seem like it would come up with that someone say, "Oh, I'd like the 8s," and
then
if it's not an issue.
I guess that goes to the second part of the discussion with respect to the approved glove list. I could sort of jump to that now.
Sorry.
Currently, the process is that these gloves have to be approved by the commission, which means a vote of the commission at an open meeting. However, a subdivision of this item is to delegate some of that authority to the executive director in between events, so that if a fighter is coming in and, for example, wants to use now the 8-ounce gloves, which are not currently approved, the commission staff could perform the entire evaluation. The executive director can make an independent evaluation so that that glove could be used basically on an interim basis for that one fight until the commission can then meet at the next open meeting where the executive director could basically announce his findings and make an actual recommendation. So that sort of gets to the second subdivision with an approved glove policy. But the first item is whether or not the commission would like to vote to approve these, and then the second part of it is whether or not they would like to make that delegation so that the executive director could address these gloving issues in between open meetings of the athletic commission.
Sounds okay by me.
So are you?
I'm with that. I think that we have so many. There's so many gloves, and there's so many variables with the gloves that in between fights you got to have some way to look at the gloves and decide whether or not they can be used. And I certainly think that the executive director should have the power to make that assessment.
Okay.
And I mean, after it's used, then he'll bring it back to the commission for their approval. But prior to that, if we need to make that kind of decision, there's no way to do that other than for us to have this open session. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right. And just so that our record is clear, the executive director will follow the minimum requirements in evaluating that the gloves are of a professional grade, that they have the thumb lock attached, that they are either 8 or 10 ounces with 1 ounce of being distributed to the weight of the wrist. So with respect to, I guess, the first item, just so that our record is clear, with respect to approving of these gloves, is there a motion to approve the gloves that were presented?
So move.
Yeah, second.
Okay.
I agree.
So I just apologize. Torres.
That's the Power Lock, the Pro-Tex 3, and Ringside 8.
Correct. And with respect to the delegation, or the delegation to the executive director pending final approval, is there a motion on that?
Motion.
Second.
I agree.
Thank you, commissioners. The next item on the agenda is to review the therapeutic use exemption. The Medical Advisory Board recently voted to adopt in full the Association of Ringside Physicians policy with respect to therapeutic use exceptions and therapeutic testosterone replacement therapy, which was issued by the ARP on January 27, 2014. The policy was provided to all the commissioners, but in short, the policy is basically that there should be no therapeutic use exemption for testosterone replacement therapy. Both the ARP and the Medical Advisory Board believed that the medical indications were basically non-existent, that there would be no legitimate purpose for a professional boxer to be on testosterone replacement therapy. And so at the last MAB meeting, as I said, they voted unanimously to adopt the ARP policy with respect to TUEs. And so now, because they have recommended it to the Commission for final adoption, it's up to the Commission now to decide whether or not they're going to adopt.
Motion.
Is there?
Second.
Okay.
Adoption. Absolute.
Commissioner Signorelli?
I agree.
Absolute.
The next item on the agenda also relates to medical matters. It's the review, discussion, and vote on ambulance requirements for events. This was another matter that came up recently at a medical advisory board meeting. Currently, the practice is to require 1 ambulances at shows. The medical advisory board has recommended that there be 2 ambulances.
2?
2 ambulances for shows. I do understand that the executive director has a position on this matter that he's going to present now.
Thanks. I want to speak to this issue. Just to be clear, the medical advisory board met, and what they said exactly was not that there should be 2 ambulances for an entire show. What they had said is that there should be 2 ambulances at the start of a show and at least 1 ambulance at a venue at all times during the course of a show when fights are taking place. I've had a chance to have some discussion after the medical advisory board meeting, which took place about a month ago, both with some of our ringside physicians and also with promoters around the state as we went to shows. The feeling is that in terms of what's medically necessary, a single ambulance is what's medically necessary. The problem with having a single ambulance in certain situations doesn't have to do with fighter safety. It has to do with the fact that the show will be delayed if an ambulance is used and takes a fighter who needs to go to the hospital away from the venue, leaving the venue with no ambulances. Because it's not a matter of medical safety, I think that we have to look at the other consideration, which is, in this case, is the cost to particularly small promoters. We have promoters. I was just in a show in Buffalo on Thursday. There were 5 fights. Chairperson Latham and I were in a show in Whitehall earlier this month. It was a pro-am show. There were only 4 professional fights. It seems that in those situations, to require 2 ambulances and the cost of 2 ambulances would be an unfair burden on those promoters and perhaps put them out of business, not allow them to put on shows. Obviously, we want a healthy environment for boxing in the state. We want shows to take place in the state. We want boxers to have a chance to earn their livelihood. What I'm going to suggest, based on those considerations, is the following. I think that it's fair to require 2 ambulances in these situations. First, where a show is being broadcast live. Obviously, in those situations, we don't want to take a chance of having any delay. If an ambulance needs to be used, we want another ambulance there so that the show can go on, so that ESPN or HBO or Showtime can go forward with their broadcast. I think anything else, frankly, would be an embarrassment to us as a commission and to the state. We don't want that. I think the other situation where we should require 2 ambulances is where a promoter wishes to put on a show with more than 8 fights. In other words, 9 or more fights. And the reason is really twofold there. First of all, obviously, the more fights you have,
More probability.
the more probability that you might need an ambulance. The second part of it is that a fight card with 9 or more fights is going, just by its nature, to be a longer show. Those are the shows where we want to make sure that delay is prevented. And shorter shows, the fans would live with delay. In a show with 9 bouts or more, the delay might be too great. So my suggestion would be to vote for a policy whereby 2 ambulances are required in live boxing and shows which are broadcast live, and in shows where there are 9 or more fights. And in other situations, shows which are not broadcast live on TV, or where there are 8 or less fights, that a single ambulance be required in those cases.
I approve that
I
motion.
don't have a problem with that either.
Sounds good.
I think that's a
Yeah.
good idea.
I agree also.
Okay, onward.
How many we gonna have for the Koto? How many? 8 fights?
There are 5 title fights and 4 undercards. So we are 12, but the Garden always has a minimum of 2. In most cases 3
So what's the total?
ambulances on site.
Oh. But I mean, there's gonna be over 9 then.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Plus, they'll be broadcast live.
But they'll be broadcast not live. They're live. There are more than 9.
Okay.
There are more than 2, 3 ambulances on site.
Okay. Very good. Next.
Well, actually, just one comment I have with that is, when is this going to be implemented?
Right. Thank you for bringing that up. It seems, out of fairness to our promoters, that we have to notify them of this requirement. My thought is, any shows that we've already approved, we will not impose this requirement since they've already been given their instructions as to what the requirements and deadlines are. Any show that we approve from this day forward will include this requirement that you've just voted on. Is that
Yeah, good.
is that agreeable to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give a ballpark approximation? What does this entail? This one ambulance? What does it cost a promoter to have one there? It doesn't seem like it would be that exorbitant. That
The
big
cost
of
varies depending on where you are in the state, what kind of deals are made, but I believe it can run roughly $1,500 in some places.
And
1,500?
yes,
Oh.
per rig.
Anywhere,
I understand that you.
No, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
any way to safeguard, like if the one does get called, have the promoter have an on-hand company or another company that can access one?
Yeah, but by the time they get there,
But that's what I'm
I
saying.
think a lot of times the
That's
companies themselves have that in
They have
place.
that.
I spoke to the EMTs up in Buffalo. They said that if they were called away, they would have a replacement ambulance. So it would not be as big a delay in those situations.
Yeah.
I think over the course of the past several years, we've had that happen maybe 3 times. And in all cases, there was immediate backup. There really was not a significant delay at all. So I think it's a good.
Very good.
Forward. Sure.
okay.
The next item on the agenda is again concerning medical matters. This again came up at the last MAB meeting where a few of the physicians addressed their concern with the fact that at some of the shows they may not have unobstructed views of the ring, or that some of their access to the fighter could be impeded either because a second is in the way or that there's something blocking them to get into the ring. So they voted to make a recommendation to the commission that as a policy, the commission requires and ensures that there are at least 2 seats abutting the ring, absolutely abutting the ring, with complete unobstructed views of the ring for the ring sides.
2 for each corner?
1 for each corner. So that at least that there are 2 designated seats for them during these shows, and that the commission,
As opposed to what's the present policy?
They have been in the corners.
well, right now they have been in the corners, but I guess some
I've
of
only
them.
seen them there.
Well, what's happened is that the last MAB meeting we had the good fortune to have some of our ringside physicians actually be present, and that's kind of like unusual that they show up to the MAB meetings. But while they were there, they voiced concerns which are valid. A lot of times when we have these larger fights, not the ESPNs so much, but the HBOs and the Showtimes with the large cameras, and they have these huge bases where they have a cameraman already stationed by the time we get there. They've already wired everything in and everything's already been put in place, the doctors then have to take the second best seat, which is not the right thing. So this way, we can mandate prior to the show, prior to the stage or the set even being put together, that before you do that, when you do that, you have to provide a space for a doctor, period, and give him that bird's eye view and easy access. He should be able to see and move should he need to move immediately. So I think it sounds simple, but it's necessary.
Well, it sounds.
Sure.
Well, it seems to me that there's never been a problem. They're right there.
There hasn't been a problem because when we get there, we go at ringside and we make sure that the doctors have a space. But it becomes like a tug of war, sort of. So if we can do that before they even set up. Let them know. We can just make a phone call to Showtime and their production staff, HBO and their production staff.
Right.
Like, listen, those camera boxes cannot
Doctor has
be
priority.
there.
Right.
Yes, the doctor has to have priority in all instances. So wherever your red corner and your blue corner is, then they have to be able to have access, easy access.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, this is more of just a clarification of existing policy because, as everyone noted, they do have the seats ringside.
Yeah.
It's just clarification that the commission, will ensure, make
Has
better
priority
that
access. Thank
they
you very much.
have the views that they need.
Paul, you want one?
Dave?
Good, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So is there a motion to vote on the MAB recommendation with respect to seating for ringsides?
Motion.
Second.
I agree.
Sergio Perez again, huh?
Well, yes. So that brings us to the next two items on the agenda. Just for clarification, both of these matters require discussion of either private personnel matters because they concern discussions regarding specific persons for specific personnel positions, or they require specific discussions on evidentiary issues regarding a specific disciplinary matter and ongoing litigation. Therefore, with respect to both of those matters, if any of the commissioners would want, they could make a motion to move into executive session to discuss both of those matters and only discuss those two matters. So does anyone want to make a motion? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
And just so that the record is clear, with respect to discussions concerning the disciplinary matter in SAC versus Perez, because I handled the disciplinary matter at the trial level, I'm going to excuse myself and for any discussions with respect to Mr. Perez. We've made arrangements for another attorney to assist the commission if any legal matters come up. That attorney is in Albany, and he could be contacted by phone. So right now it's 11:40, and the commission is going into executive session.
It's 11:50. We're returning from executive session. The commission has taken 2 votes during executive session, which they can now confirm. First of all, with respect to the matter of the State Athletic Commission against Sergio Perez, the commission has voted unanimously to approve the findings of fact of the administrative law judge, and they have voted to modify the discipline in this case. They have voted, first of all, to revoke Sergio Perez's license instead of merely suspending it as a statement that performance-enhancing drugs will not be tolerated in the state of New York. They have also voted for forfeiture of Sergio Perez's purse, which means that he will have to repay the purse amount. And the reason for that vote is the commission feels that a boxer should not get any benefit from cheating, from using performance-enhancing drugs to benefit himself in a fight. So that is the unanimous vote of the commission. Should we approve that publicly?
Yeah, but you have to address the question of the fine, that we're not imposing the fine.
Correct. The commission voted also that they would not impose an additional fine. They found that forfeiture of a $5,000 purse, which does require repayment, is sufficient, and they took note of the fact that Mr. Perez wrote a letter noting his difficult financial circumstances in coming to that vote.
Very good.
Maybe we should formally approve that on the record of what I just stated as your
Absolutely.
unanimous vote in Sergio Perez. Is that correct?
Approved.
Yes.
Okay.
Second?
One other matter that was dealt with in executive session, the commission once again voted unanimously to ratify the employment of Mario Mercado and John D'Antonio. Both of them started work at the commission on April 10th, and this is our first commission meeting since that time. They have also voted to ratify the fact that Eric Bentley will now be taking over the functions of a director of boxing. And just to be clear, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, I second
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Just one other matter?
Yes. Last item on the agenda.
item.
Yeah, just
Discipline.
yeah. So there's one final item on the agenda, which is for a review, discussion, and vote on a delegation of authority to the executive director for certain disciplinary matters. Back in July of 2010, the commission at an open meeting voted to provide a delegation of authority to the sitting chairperson to take action on behalf of the commission with respect to certain disciplinary actions, consent orders, and suspensions on advice of counsel from the Department of State. At the time, we haven't had an executive director, and so with Mr. Berlin being recently appointed, we believed it made sense that in instances, again, where it would be advantageous for a quick decision-making to be made, in instances where the chairperson, let's say, wasn't available because she was at a show or out of the office or something like that, where for expedience purposes, where these were basically somewhat ministerial or administrative suspensions, again on advice of counsel, that the sitting director, in this case Mr. Berlin, would be able to execute such documents, either consent orders or actual suspensions themselves. So basically it's just whether or not the commission wants to extend the same power that was delegated to the chair to the executive director.
And before you do, I would just like to thank Chairperson Lathan for really, during a long period of time, carrying on both functions of what an executive director would do, as well as what a chairperson and commissioner
right.
does.
Join in that commendation.
Too.
But what about me and John?
Just pretty face.
Hey,
So
I
is
need a recognition.
The motion is
Well, thank you too then.
so is
By the
there?
way, your thing has gone up since I found out about your father. Now that's really a plus. That's a plus.
So
Here you go. Here's your pen.
I make a motion to accept.
okay, motion by Commissioner Signorelli. Is it seconded?
Say who?
Chairperson Latham.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. The last item is public comment. However, no members of the public are here. So the final item on the agenda is to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
We want to make a
Second.
date for the next meeting or no?
If you guys want to schedule it now,
Phone
certainly.
call will be fine then.
Yeah, let us
Adjourn.
know by phone. Let us know.
That
Don't
works.
have to fix it. 'Cause
Okay.
he's gonna change it anyway.
History. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't have any snowstorms.
All right,
so-
thank you. And the time is 12 o'clock.
You gonna